Hello everyone, my name is LIKA. Our group will present about the short story on the title of The Boogeyman by Stephen King. Stephen King is an American author of horror, supernatural fictions, suspense, crime, science fictions, and fantasy novels. So Stephen King has 3 pseudonyms, which is Stephen King himself, John Sweeten, and Richard Bachman. So if we look into the era of Stephen King's pseudonym, John Sweeten was King's pseudonym used to publish his first short story at 1972. Then he used his own name, second pseudonym, Stephen King, for his first novel, Carrie, at 1974. Then Stephen King published several books as Richard Bachman. One of his novels is the collections of the Bachman book that published between 1977 and 1982. So our group chooses short story The Boogeyman, which is published in 1978. So this short story first published in March 1973. That issue of the magazine Cavalier before he collected and published into the Stephen King collection Night Shift. So this short story is a horror fiction genre. So Boogeyman was adapted into a movie at 1982, and it also performed as theatrical play that directed by David Ock in 2010. Garrett Lowe adapted it into 27-minute movie.
Setting. For the setting, the short story took place in a room of a psychiatrist or a therapist, because it does mention that the main character in these short stories come to meet the doctor to say what on his mind, and also it does mention couch and also closet. It does look like a room, and the doctor does look like a psychiatrist or a therapist. Main character. There are 2 main characters in these short stories. The first one, Lester Billings. He is the protagonist. He is static and round. He is static because he is constantly being paranoid and terrified. And second one is round because he is a little bit unpredictable, and also he is quite complex. Second one, Dr. Harper. Dr. Harper is dynamic and static, and he is also the antagonist in this short story. He is dynamic because he changed in the end of the story. Spoiler alert, he's the boogeyman. And he also round because he is much more complex, and he is dynamic with an unpredicted ending.
So hi, my name is NURUL. The plot of the Boogeyman story by Stephen King. The introduction plot in this story, majority of the story take place in a psychiatrist's office, with man was talk about murder of his 3 children. The action plot, the story's protagonist comes across as paranoid and possibly insane as he described the circumstance surrounding of death of his children. His first 2 children die mysteriously when left them alone in room. The only commonality to their death is a crack to the closet door that he certainly closed when he left his child in the room. For the climax, his wife becomes pregnant a year after second child death. This family living in a new place with a new house away from the death location. For the first years, they were so happy. No incidents happened, but long after the protagonist's mother-in-law is ill, the wife have to take care of her mother and have to leave his son and protagonist at home alone. Soon, the appearance that has killed his first 2 children managed to track down the protagonist's new house. After a brief period of lingering in the closet, this creature, known as Boogeyman, attacked protagonist's son. Following action to resolution plot, the fathers run into the son's room as the monster is approaching his child. But it's too late to save his son. He flees to local 24 hours dinners and of story with the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist recommend him to take another appointment for further discussion. He go to the lobby. The protagonist go to the lobby and saw there was a desert. He came back to the psychiatrist's lobby, but surprisingly he saw the psychiatrist take off his mask with the face of the Boogeyman.
My name is Hannani, and I'm going to continue with the conflict of this short story. In the short story of The Boogeyman by Stephen King, the types of conflict that I found is two, which is man versus self, and the second one is man versus man, or we can classify it as man versus nature. The man versus self conflict that I found can be seen at the main character, which is Lester Billing, and this Lester Billing has an inner problem regarding his children's death, and he just did he knew that something is going on and something is happening which is the Boogeyman keep murdering all his children, but he just don't want to admit about that thing, and he also then turned into an alcoholic, and he thinks that no one will believe him if he talk about the Boogeyman. The second conflict in this short story is man versus man, or we can call it as man versus nature. And throughout the story, we can see that the Lester Billing are having a conflict with the Boogeyman, because from the story we can know that the Boogeyman keep murdering all the Lester Billing's 3 children, and the Boogeyman are also keep scaring Lester children and disturb them until he eventually kill all his children.
My name is Nadia. There are few themes that Stephen King explored in this story are guilt and fear. At the very beginning, Lester immediately proclaims that he killed all the 3 children. This clearly shows that he wants to get rid of his guilt. He then quickly makes the distinction that his children were murdered, but it's false because he let them get murdered. Certain moments during his story, he begins to cry and show remorse. This would suggest that Lester is telling the truth about his children being killed by the Boogeyman, and that he simply feels responsible. This goes against the idea that Lester is the Boogeyman. Next theme is fear. Lester writes an interesting philosophy about what is real and what we believe. He said that we believe in something strongly, then that makes more real. The idea being that more fear Lester has of the Boogeyman. The more he believes in the Boogeyman, the more real the Boogeyman becomes and the stronger it gets.
So that's all from our group. Thank you for watching.